Hello, 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 Facebook families, HGG families. We're so glad again that you've tuned in. Surely we must be doing something right while you folks keep on coming back every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So glad to have you, and also the comments that has come in. We appreciate that also. We've been on the air now for going on a few years now. And, initially I thought this was just going to be a short stint, but obviously the Lord is just leading in a different way. But we're glad here to have this afternoon or today, Marsha Terry. And she has been on this program here before. And I believe the program was, correct me if I'm wrong, Marsha, whatever your wives wished your husband knew.
Yes.
Yeah, those that are listening, ladies, you need to listen to that and pull your husband aside to listen to that also. Whatever wives wish their husband knew, but then the husbands can pull their wives aside and say, listen to the one whatever your husband wished your wife knew. So today our topic in our program is rooted in love, self-care for couples. So I'll let Marsha Terry tell you a little bit about herself, how she got started. I've been more than a few ladies have actually asked me, so how did I get into this and so forth, and how do you help these ladies? And I figured Marsha Terry would be a good inspirational source to tell you how she got started, where she's at today, and then we'll ask a couple of questions and get the conversation going about rooted in love, self-care for couples. So Marsha, you are on. Tell us about yourself a bit.
Hi, Bonitto. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today. It's truly an honor to be on the show today. So how did I get started? So it's an interesting story, I think, because I probably started this journey about 10 plus years ago. Yeah, it's about 10 years ago. And I never really got serious about it, probably until about 7 years ago. But I was listening to something the other day, a Facebook Live, and the lady speaking was actually sharing a story about me. And her story about me happened at least 20 years ago. So in my mind, I think it started 10 years ago, but in truth, it probably started about 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was really I guess, found my voice, if you will, becoming involved in my community. And so some people might be familiar here. I'm in South Texas, the United States, and there's an organization called the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And so through that organization, I was a leader, and I really developed my voice and being able to speak out for other people on their behalf. I didn't know at the time that that's what I was doing until 20 years later, roughly, when I started, or 10 years later, when I started to go into coaching. And I really started to dive into like finding my own voice, because I really didn't feel like I was being heard.
Okay.
Whether it be through my peers, my spouse, my siblings, the people that I worked with, my friends. I really didn't feel like people were seeing me, number one, and I didn't think they were hearing me.
I hear that.
So I started on a journey of self-discovery, really, and finding my own voice. And that's how I started to empower other people to find their voice.
No, beautiful. You mentioned about finding your voice. I think that's so important because there's a lot of not even just women or wives, but also men. Also, it's like we're walking in this world. We're going here or there, but we really don't. What's my purpose? I think when you find your voice, there's something instrumental about finding your voice. You're finding your voice, and it kind of leads you into your purpose. I had a program some time back here that I mentioned about my transformational journey also too, right? And, when we all started, I think we all feel a little bit inadequate and all that kind of stuff, but it's not about me today. It's about you. So we will continue on. So So thanks for sharing that. Actually, I still remember, Marsha, some years back, I was in your home, and I didn't know I don't know if you remember that. I didn't know what was I going to do down the road after I retire, or even before I retired. And then I said to you, Marsha, I got it. I want to be a life coach. You remember that?
I do remember. I will remember it forever. It was great. Look at you now.
It was right. Yeah, it's ingrained there. So there comes a time when the light bulb comes on, you will know, and you'll start to find your voice. For those out there that's you say you don't have a voice, and you're looking for your voice, you're looking for your purpose. You know what? I think if you just keep on waking up every day and do the best that you can in time, you'll just walk into your purpose. The door will open up for you.
Yep.
So about self-care. So you're a coach also, you're a writer, you're a speaker. Like you left out a whole lot of details, but
Podcaster, yes.
podcaster, you just got podcaster going. So you can tell some folks how did they get you on that podcast. Just look up your name and that should be good enough on the podcast, or is it a name or brand?
It's on YouTube, so that's a video podcast. It's called The Trials of Life podcast.
Okay.
By Marsha Terry. And so generally that's where you find me. I've only done season 1. So start with episode number 1 and go through because they are in chronological order.
Okay.
To them out of order, it might get a little confusing, but that's where I'm on.
Trials of Life. That seems like it's very relatable. Everybody on the planet is going through something. A good friend of mine told me one time, he said, we're all going to heaven struggling with something, but you know what? We're just waking up every day and trying to make the best of it every day. So based on your self-care, so those that were just tuned in, it's called, our topic is Rooted in Love, Self-Care for Couples, right? So what's the most important aspect you think in the relationship that one would focus on when it comes to nurturing their relationship?
Amazing question. Great question. Because you always ask amazing questions. But
Okay,
I think that the most important thing, and it stems from the framework that I developed, and it's called the self-care framework. Care is an acronym. And the first letter in care is C, which stands for core.
Okay.
And so what that means is as you go on your journey of self-care, you have to know who you are. So in order to nurture either a relationship with yourself or a relationship with your spouse, you have to know who you are first before you can even begin to nurture that relationship, because you're not going to necessarily be coming from the right place if you're not in check with who you are, knowing what your boundaries are, you know, what you want in life, all that kind of thing. You'll be always caught up perhaps pleasing the other person if you're not sure with who you are first.
Knowing who you are, it automatically comes into my mind about, do you feel that there is an identity? Let's talk about ladies, okay? Feel that there is an identity crisis when it comes to wives. You didn't tell anybody, but you've been married for 20 plus years, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Identity crisis in knowing who you are. I mean, when did you think the light bulb actually went on when you realized you realized your identity and what it was that you needed to do?
Yeah. So when I turned 40, I know I don't look much older than that right now, but
she is okay.
When I turned 40, my sister said to me, "You're going to have an awakening."
Okay.
And I never really knew what she meant, but I do recall I woke up one day and it was like I got up out of bed and I put my feet on the floor for the very first time.
Wow. Really?
I started to feel things around me, see things around me. I start to see the light, the fan, like I start to see things very differently than how I had the first 39 years of my life.
Okay.
So I think a lot of women, especially if you're married, you have children, you know, I work with my husband. You work outside the home, you work inside the home. It doesn't really matter. There comes an identity shift that occurs, especially as your kids start to get older. I think in the beginning of our relationships, you know, we define ourselves by our children.
Right.
And we
That's
kind of forget who we are as the individual.
mm-hmm.
And then there becomes a disconnect in your relationship because you forget.
I'm hearing that. Yes.
And then you have an awakening, right? And that awakening is this discovery, because the person who you were the first 5 years, the first 10 years of your marriage is not generally the person that you are like later on. You've
Mm-hmm.
shifted, changed, you've become a different individual. And maybe your spouse is aware of that. Maybe they're not. Maybe you're not even aware of the changes that are happening to yourself. And so that's where that identity crisis occurs, because you're trying to figure it out too.
Right. Right. So while you're trying to figure it out, I might be going off a little bit here now, but while you're trying to figure it out, you're showing up a different way than you normally did before to your husband, and he's wondering, so like, what's going on? Where's my wife? So how does one communicate that to their husband, that they can be on the same journey that they're now embarking on? It's not like you're leaving them behind. Sometimes it might feel that way, mind you, but it's not like you leave them. But how do we communicate that to a husband in a loving way so that they can be on that journey with you of self-discovery and knowing your identity now?
So I always tell my kids are 15 and 20, and I always told them when they're younger, communicate with your words,
Mm, okay,
okay? Because a lot of times they'll try to communicate with their emotions,
okay, I
and
like
your
that.
emotions are going to be all over the place. Because as you're on this journey of self-discovery, you don't even know sometimes. But if we use our words to communicate with our partner
Mhm.
exactly how you're feeling, as much as you can describe it in the moment, at least that'll give them some sort of insight as to what's going on with you.
Okay,
If you're waking up and you're kind of like suddenly doing something differently and you're not explaining to your husband like what's going on, they're going to be looking at you mystified, like, where's my wife all of a sudden?
mm, right,
She used to be this way, and suddenly now she's doing this other thing. And we think that our husband should know, but if we're not communicating with our words, how are they going to know? They can't read our minds.
I like that. I like that. You know, we talk about communication a lot, maybe not coming across like that, right? Because we talk, yeah, communicate, we got to speak, whatever. But again, with the same, as you're saying, right? A lot of times, let's pick on us men for an example, right? We don't communicate with our words. You're smiling because you know it's true. You've been married for 20 plus years, okay? I'm still a work in progress. Also, we're all a work in progress, right? But
Yes.
yeah, but you're right. More than enough times, I think we communicate more with our feelings and more with our emotions, and the other part is really trying to figure it out. And now there becomes a misconception of what you're actually going through or what you're actually feeling. So for those that are listening, yeah, number one, just start to learn to communicate with your words. So you're basically saying that once you started the shift, are you telling the audience, is this what you did, or is that what you're telling them now after the fact?
Oh, no, 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 no. It's not what I did. I'm being honest, because I didn't know, and
Okay,
hindsight is
it's fair.
2020.
Okay.
I'm very transparent and very like open. I didn't know, because most people don't know. When
That's right.
you are going through this change, whether it is like you're going through menopause, whatever it is you're going through,
Right.
there's no like book that says at this age you're going to experience X, Y, and Z. There's no
Right.
place. We're all kind of
Mhm.
our own, and women might talk amongst their women friends about what they're experiencing, but we're not often telling our husbands what we're experiencing. And I mean, that's your lifelong partner. You should be,
You should keyword.
right? We should be.
But what would make it difficult for one to express that their feelings to their husband, though?
Hmm.
Tell it like it is.
I think, if you feel like, number one, whenever you speak, that they don't hear you,
Okay.
right? So why would you keep saying something if you already have this perception in your mind that they're not hearing
Hmm.
you? There's that, I think it's Love Languages, that the author talks about women talk through pink megaphones and men here with blue megaphones or blue, right?
Mhm.
It's all in how you have to understand like your partner, but I think that more comes from understanding yourself, because once you understand yourself, then you start to understand your partner. And they
Mhm.
might have childhood trauma, stuff that's been going on in their background, in their lives that they're not sharing with you.
Mhm.
You're not aware of it,
Mhm.
right? So it might make it difficult for you to have conversations. I was always, I tried to be very much aware of when I was having a conversation with my husband about certain things.
Okay.
Not necessarily after he came in from a full day of work and
Mhm.
the whole weight of the world was on his shoulder.
Right.
I wasn't gonna like, hey, I want to do or want to spend X amount of dollars. Like, no, that's not a good time. I think it's about, having that level of self-awareness also with your
Mm.
partner. I don't know if that's answering your question.
No, 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 absolutely true. It's a self-awareness. I mean, we've thrown that word around so many times in our programs here because it's a game. It is a game changer, right? And I mentioned this before too. I don't know if you maybe not have heard it from me, but our biggest thing that we've been saying here for a while now is self-awareness equals self-control. When you're more self-aware, you can communicate more effectively, right? When you're self-aware, you can express your feelings more lovingly, and the list just goes on. So it is a game changer.
Mhm.
But I've also said too that lack of self-control, lack of self-awareness is well, lack of self-control. You say what you want, you do what you want. You don't really care about the other person, which doesn't make a really good inviting or nurturing relationship. So absolutely being able to do what you did would you're basically putting your husband into your world to make him kind of see what you're going through. They might not be able to feel, but they can at least see and begin to empathize. So self-control will definitely help a person to empathize also with the other individual. So with everything that's going on in with the wives and their lives, so this is one like how do they prioritize quality time when it comes to self-control when there's so many moving parts and so many moving pieces? Uh, and I know you're working, you've got a business, you coach, and you're a speaker, and you're on the podcast. And there's a lot of moving parts there, right? So even for yourself, right? Just to you can just share a little bit on that, so others, our viewers, ladies especially, that's in that kind of role with so many pieces moving, can maybe
So
say,
back in the day, I started with this, and you're familiar with my masterful morning,
right?
right? And it was basically me learning how to own my day. Now, I understand that not everybody's a morning person and not everybody can get up early, but I
Mm.
found that because I made a decision about what was going to be important to me, I started to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay.
And it was a game changer. And I'm going to be honest with you, even in getting up at 5 a.m., in the back of my head, I was like, what is my husband going to say? What is he going to think? Is he going to think
Okay.
differently of me?
It's a lot
Like
of judgment.
that voice was there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had to push past it because it was bigger than him.
Mm.
It was literally bigger than him. I realized a long time ago that, I'm sure you've shared it here, that you cannot pour from an empty cup, right?
Hmm. Right.
If you're going on a trip, you're driving somewhere, the first thing you do is put gas in your car, okay, in order to make it the distance. So, in my mind, if I'm not filling my cup first, if I'm not putting gas in my physical car
That's
every single day
right.
to own my day, how am I going to be productive? How am I going to be loving? How am I going to be caring? How am I going to be able to support my husband, my children? I can't. You can't. You can do it for a little while, but it's not sustainable.
Not sustainable. Absolutely.
So since then, my masterful morning has metamorphosized, I alluded to it earlier, into my self-care framework. The
Mm.
first word I said is core, standing for the C. And then the second part of care, the next letter is A, which is adore.
Mm.
So it's learning how to love and nurture yourself and what that really means. It's more than, a pedicure and a massage. It's a lot deeper than that. And then I also, share about the restoration or restore part. So
Okay.
core, adore, restore, which is a lot.
Okay.
Mind, body, soul, and spirit. And then the E is for explore. So
Okay.
once you have come into knowing who you are, you begin to love this person. You're restoring your mind, body, soul, and spirit. Now you get to explore this new identity.
I love it.
It's a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. You want to give the acronym again for those that might have missed that? Core.
Sure. So the acronym is self-care, and care is the acronym CARE. The first letter is core, CORE. Then you have adore, restore, and explore.
Love it. Love it. What's interesting that what you mentioned here, it's amazing when we start talking at time, we just go so fast. But the key, the real, oh man, the thing that hit me the most as you were just speaking, you see, we do listen, right? Is owning my day. I think that is such a game changer, because what was happening, what I'm hearing from you is previously to all this, you weren't owning your day, but somebody else was owning your day.
Yes. 100%.
Somebody else was creating your day. And there's this famous coach, I think Rich Litvin, I believe he has a saying here: create the day that you want. Because if you don't create the day that you want, others are going to create the day that you don't want. So for those that are listening that want to embark on this journey of self-care, which is so important, because another thing is what you didn't realize, I'm sure you did, is that self-care is not just about you, though. So for an example, just rather than me just saying it out, I'm going to ask you, what other areas of your life was self-care impacting?
Okay, so all areas. And I'm being so my finances.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if you're not taking care of yourself, to me, it bleeds into other areas of your life.
Bleeds, wow.
So my finances were like all over the place, right? My spiritual journey was like all over the place.
Okay.
My health, I was on blood pressure medicine. I was a little overweight for my height and my age.
Okay.
And so when I really started to get focused and aware of how these things were affecting each other, there's in coaching, when I was in school, they said how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Right.
Right? And so that is so true across the board. So if we are not being attentive to our finances, we're not being attentive to our relationship with God, we're not being attentive to, how you eat and all those kind of things. I mean, then it's like inevitable that you're not attentive to your self-care.
Right. So
And
true.
once you become more aware of that, and like you're saying, it's not only about me. Once I made choices to change me, not change my husband, but change me.
You're right.
He started to transform.
So give us some of the things that you've seen so that the wives out there can see, if I can change, this is the shift that I can presumably expect to see.
Yeah, I mean, very simply. So like I said, I used to have this angst about getting up in the morning. I would work out. I would, have my quiet time and journaling and all this stuff in the morning. And I would have angst because, like, what is my husband going to think? What he's going to say? Blah, blah, blah. That's like a whole other conversation. But what started to happen was that he now also gets up.
What's that? Same time?
So together now we get up. I never thought it would happen, but it did. We both get up between 5 and 5:30, and we are walking together a mile and a half in the morning.
And you never asked him and said, hey, you need to get up with me because I'm getting up 5 o'clock. You didn't have that conversation to invite him to your little world, really, eh?
Not because also I was being honest, I was really protective of my time.
Okay. Oh, that's good. No, but I think we need to know that though, right? If you, if basic what you're saying, you're protected because you had a boundary.
Yes.
You made a boundary concerning your time. Okay, so go on. I had to bring that one in.
It's okay. I was protective of that time. I'm like, that's my me time.
Yeah.
That's not between me and you. That's between me. Right.
Okay. Okay.
And I think as you know, I matured and became, again, we're back to more self-aware.
Mhm.
I There's a lot of beauty that occurs in the morning when we're walking together. Like sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't talk, but the energy exchange that occurs is very powerful. And I
My.
think as a couple, we have become more connected
Okay.
because of this. So we walk in the morning, come back. I have my quiet time. He has his quiet time. Never in a million years would I have thought it.
Mm.
We used to watch TV in the morning. That don't happen no more. He rather would listen to music. And it really sets you up to own your day as opposed to all the negativity that comes from TV, all the other things that are going on, to really have like be intentional about your movements through the day.
Mm. Yeah. I'm speechless because I know your husband, right? So I'm speechless.
He's transformed. I'm really proud of him. I really am.
I mean, it's amazing. So for the listeners out there, the idea is to start first
Yes.
and not worried about anybody else. That's a time when you become selfish, so to speak, for lack of better words. You become selfish about me. You become selfish about my transformation. And while you were doing that, and when you were owning your day, though, I know you said you pushed some judgment out, but you wasn't worrying about whether your husband was going to come on, whether your husband was going to come on the same journey. If he did, he did. If he didn't, he didn't. You were still going to own your day and do what you needed to do so that you can experience your transformation where self-care was concerned.
Yeah.
Uh, that my wife and I have talked about that, so we're going to be starting something. Well, we have started a bit, so we just need to push through that, especially when summertime comes to, which is. But we can't make summertime as an excuse either. There's different things that an individual can do together, whether in the home, whether through YouTube or if they get a chance to go to the Y, whatever facilities that they might have. So it's interesting. So a few takeaway here, folks, as we're about to end here is number one, self-care is prioritize self-care. Number one, when you prioritize self-care, you're prioritizing yourself. When you prioritize yourself, you're owning your day. This is me in sequence here now. You're owning your day. When you're owning your day now you're about to impact other lives and make better decisions that you never thought you would have, and you didn't see what was going to happen down the road. But all you know is that I was going to be selfish about me, not realizing when you're selfish about yourself, you're actually setting yourself up for success, even for somebody else. Now, because of that, now as you can pretty well verify, health wise is better, I'm sure. Feeling better is sure. Getting up 5 o'clock in the morning, that man, I'm getting a
It's
headache.
a danger, because nobody's calling you on your cell phone, nobody's texting you. Like there's no interruptions from the world. And it's really where you get to have that alone time with your personal thoughts. I had to push through a lot of my own personal judgments in that quiet time. God really spoke to me in those early hours of the morning, and it was a game changer for me. And I think sometimes it's hard for women and men. Well, I don't know if it's hard for men to be selfish as,
Selfish.
yeah, I don't know that it's as hard. But I definitely think it's harder for women. But when you kind of change that thought process about what you're doing, it's not like you're being selfless, really.
Hmm.
You're really trying to be a better woman. You're trying to be a better wife. You're trying to be a better mother.
Whole
And like I
idea.
said, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So if it's 30 minutes of selfishness, 45, an hour, like what is that in the grand scheme of things? It's nothing.
Nothing exactly. And when you add it up, what's a grand scheme of thing? When you add it up for a year, 365 days for the year, it's
It's nothing.
Yeah, it's absolutely nothing. So I want to thank you for making the time to be here with me today. I'm sure the ladies that will be listening, there'll be something there for them to take away. I know, like I said, the reason I wanted to do this because I've been asked questions pertaining to self-care, and I can give them from a man's perspective, but I wanted to hear it also from your perspective because I know that's the work that you do. So before you leave, what's one advice that you'd give to wives or to even couples looking to strengthen in their relationship where self-care is concerned? And I mean, you've said a lot already, but if you had to just put it all in a Coles Note version.
I think, I tell my clients all the time is always be curious.
Yeah,
So come from a place of curiosity and rather from coming from a place of judgment.
yeah,
And so I think that shifts the dynamics. If you're being curious, you're just asking questions like you want to know.
hmm
Curiosity can be fun, it can be playful, right? Rather than that place of judgment, which is really heavy. So I think that if couples, want to embrace or go on a journey of discovery together, it's be curious and be open to hearing like the answers to the questions you're asking. You might not like the responses, but you're
absolutely.
purely being curious. And I think because I was curious, my life and my relationship is transformed because of it.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. I love it. Curious, those that are listening, when a person becomes curious, you become also solution focused. You're thinking outside the box, and you actually, when you become curious, I think you're being more empathetic also towards one another because you're really you're listening to understand rather than listen to respond,
Right.
which makes a difference in the relationship altogether. So our time is up, Marsha, Terry, folks. So Marsha, for folks to get a hold of you again, and those that might have just been coming in, and at the last part here, our topic was rooted in love, self-care for couples. And Marsha Terry here was our guest here today, which is a writer, speaker, podcaster, RN registers nurse. Business owner, Lord have mercy, and the list just goes on. So tell us again how they can get a hold of you and your business for future reference.
So very simple. You can go to my website, Marsha Terry, Marsha Terry Terry.com, or you can follow me on Facebook and on Instagram, the same name at Self-Care Visionary, the Self-Care Visionary.
Okay. All right. Thank you again. And for those that's here on the usual every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach on the program Transforming Your Relationship. And I'm going to mention this, the beginning of our song that we have all the time and at the end. You know why I love it? Obviously, most folks know the song, I'll Take You There. That's the whole object of our program is to take you to where you really want to be, take you to that place of self-satisfaction, take you to the place of self-love, take you to that place of transformation within your relationship. So it's all about transforming your relationship. And if you like what you hear, what you heard, you can subscribe. Sorry. Also, you can connect with us on HGG Radio at 825-343-4486 for any questions that you might have. So that's 825-343-4486 on HGG Radio. Thank you. And Marsha, we'll be talking to you again. Appreciate you coming on and making the time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I always have fun talking with you.
Okay, me too.
Okay.